So today we're going to do the second part of our Game Changers Championship preview. We're going to take a look at the EMEA teams and the Asian teams, and it starts tomorrow. So tomorrow I'll be doing my pick'ems for the event, and then I will be streaming it as well. So come and join me on my stream. And let's start with G2, who of course are the reigning world champions of Game Changers.
Try to send Hunter's Fury Benita on the chopping block. It's Giuliano hunting her down once again, but she succeeds. And now it's all on 1K. P's gone! And G2, a lifetime of greatness, forged in finals like this.
But whilst G2 are the reigning champions, there are questions about this team. It is a slightly different team with two different players than that championship winning team. And whilst they started the year off well, by the end of the year and in the final qualifiers, they actually only managed to finish 4th place in EMEA. And so the questions will definitely be there as to whether this team is now good enough to actually repeat and win again. The thing is though, in that last qualifier where they did get eliminated, I will say that they probably should have won that game that they lost against Ascend, and I say that as someone who is employed by Ascend, because there was just tons of clutches like this one.
Catch her mid-cast. It's gonna work! She gets a kill, but quick to come on back. 3-on-3 for the retake. Jolina leading the charge as all 3 players forced off of site behind that Viper wall. Molly's come out as well. They're just gonna go for the stick on this one. Amy's just barely not able to get it to half. And now Jolina trying to hunt down for the kills. Roxy around, and it's Badoka to clutch up both kills to finish it off and take Ascend to double digits.
But now also let's talk about G2, the team in general, and actually how they are doing. And I think that this round here, in their game versus Ascend on Split, round 12, was a good example of how I feel about G2, right? Where they're gonna have a nice idea, particularly for playing against Ascend. Okay, because this is something, a defensive setup that Ascend did a lot, kind of a deep cypher hole deep on the site, you know, with kind of kill trips in here, often supported by a breach, right, with the classic kind of Fnatic Althea cam up here as well. And G2 had a good plan of how to try and attack this if they wanted to, right? It's going to be smoke in here, they're going to come and take vents, they know that they can get up to the site. They can maybe cross towards ramp. They can get up into vents and get to this position where then they can explode onto the site quite easily. And they did that quite often. And again, if it wasn't for Ascend kind of, you know, making some plays deep on the A site, you know, this could have been a much better half for G2, because I like the way that they approach this, right? They take the space that, you know, they feel like they can get fairly easily, right? We got a cage coming across here to allow them to cross over towards ramps. So we're clearing in ramps, right? We're clearing these kind of angles in here. We're already in vents. We're already, you know, on kind of the doorstep of the site. We're ready to sort of go for it now. And now we see this exit come in, right? And it was all quite nice, but then there's also moments where you just feel like, you know, something goes wrong. And in this instance, you know, Sarah, you could see Sarah kind of knows that Amy is there already, right? Pinging it out already kind of knows that that's likely where they're going to be, but we just get a slight small mistake hitting the ledge there, and, you know, something goes wrong, right? And eventually they're going to do well enough here to actually win this round. But I think that is where I saw a lot of G2. They have good plans, right? They have pretty good teamwork, right? It goes well a decent amount of the time, but there's often just like, you know, maybe just a mistake that wasn't there last year when they were playing in the Game Changers Championship, right? Just often that kind of like, oh, we made one mistake, it cost us a life, it cost us the round, you know, we lost, right? And in this instance, you know, we have to scrape out a round that, you know, maybe last year this would have been a comfortable, you know, 4 people still alive kind of round, but instead now we're ending up in a 1v1, need to win a clutch. Okay, now let's move on to the other EMEA team, BBL, and the first thing you have to know about them is they have a player called Vanya, who is absolutely insane.
Thanks, I guess, to that knife having landed earlier. At least they anticipated a paranoia plan going down towards Jenny. Everybody avoids the paranoia. Now they're ready to fight. Vanya, good to find 2. Needs a little bit more. 3 might do. They are fragging on the site.
And when she's not doing it, when she's actually on the main camera, it's not rare at all to see just BBL Vanya kills multiple people in the top right of the screen as well.
For late mid-control.
Good recon up top, fired from outside of A main. Hunter's Fury to follow up, clear out some of these positions, but it's doing nothing for them. All the while, Vanya is stood there now on 1 HP with 4 kills under her belt.
And in terms of BBL's style, I would say that they are a fairly direct team. They probably have more faster rounds than most teams, you know, just going and hitting a site or doing a split to a site or whatever, right? It is fairly direct, fairly pacey quite often, and it does find success a decent amount of the time.
Their shots, light shields across the board. Already, there's issues showing for this defensive side. Those issues are only going to multiply if this continues, if they lose this one.
First trip taken out. The second not expected though in that little cross, but no one available. to actually play off of it on the side of Ascend Rising. Again, going for that aggression. BBL are not afraid to push in towards spawn, cut off these opportunities for Ascend to push back in. Great paranoia to counter.
That's a really nice paranoia, but Ava, again, is able to just do the unimaginable. Sure, she gets caught fading out, but the advantage remains. Still a 3 versus 2. The flash out, and both of these players ready to peek. Philippa doesn't have any utility to work with, didn't. Rather, the stun just came back online, and it's going to be used. It's caught Jolina. She's teleporting. Okay, the Shrouded Step not actually detected in Philippa. She spotted her, but now the fight has to be here and now.
And as I said, that style does work for them quite often, but I think it can maybe be exploited. It can be a bit predictable, and if you're ready, as you kind of saw in that round, they aren't afraid either to kind of, you know, push spawn or, you know, get aggressive in a post plant as well. But if you're ready for that kind of stuff, you can punish them.
That they thought they had in the bag, but that 9-3 scoreline now has avoided coming into fruition. For BBL, that's a big positive. Alkia aggressive in the pistol. Doesn't look like we're going to have any combat. It's a full retake.
Yeah, that one around gives that extra breathing room to BBL as well in case this pistol round doesn't go in their favor. Alkia's about to walk into 3-4 players here, though. Not going to come out on top in that kind of duel. A little bit of chip damage to Amy at the very least, as Ascend look to push back in.
Yeah, burning up a lot of utility, clearing the site, but BBL are playing off-site. Look at the position, though, from Amy. It's great. She might be caught. Okay, explain that shot. That doesn't make any sense. It's a headshot through the wall running, but the diffuse is on the way. It's already half. Body blocks all over. The spray's not close to being good enough.
Okay, and now let's come to EDG, who have some very interesting rounds in general, like this one. And this is how they play a lot of their rounds, by the way. They have these very, very passive kind of defaults, which I don't know, you know, the kind of East Asia game changer scene well enough, but I'm going to guess there's quite a few very aggressive teams, you know, that force you to basically do this. And maybe that's where they find a lot of success, you know, people just pushing out into them. But, you know, this, for instance, is like their bonus round, right? So, like, it would kind of be crazy for your opponents, you know, with better guns to feel like, oh yeah, on defense side, we need to like just push out all the way to you, right? That would be kind of crazy in general, but you see the kind of effect that can have on them. Sometimes I'm sure it works because obviously they qualified for this tournament, so I'm guessing, you know, they can catch out aggression. But for instance, they have to use a Fade Prowler, you know, here in kind of the first part of mid that normally, you know, you could just walk there, right? Like, but you have to use a Fade Prowler here now. And for instance, you're going to see later on in this round, you know, this door is actually shut from the defenders as well. You know, but obviously we didn't hear the door get shut here. So you might be like, you know, if you did have someone, you know, up here, start of the round, you might hear this door shut, you know, or if someone was in mid and then, you know, you wouldn't maybe think that, you know, they are pushing in mid. You might understand that that's probably not going to be happening right now. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, but I think going into this tournament, you know, I don't think on average the rest of the teams in this tournament are going to be super aggressive, you know, or aggressive enough to warrant, you know, kind of sitting in spawn back here. So we'll see if they change that or not. But with that said, they can also have some really nice ideas and execution off the back of those ideas, right? Like if we take this round in their grand final against Zeta, what we're going to see here is they're going to come onto the B site, and it's a fairly weak B site, right? It's just the Omen here. So yeah, sure, they're going to take the site. They don't have too much problem in doing that. But what I like about this round is actually what they do after, right? Because, hey, we're in a 5v5. We got the site. We're chilling. We're good. But the problem is here for EDG after they get the spike down is that their opponents have a breach ult, right? They got a breach and a sky ult. So what do they decide to do? They do something that, you know, normally maybe you wouldn't and go, okay, we're going to push spawn, right? Because obviously if we just let them, you know, come up to kind of the doorway of the site and they're breach ulters, we're in a ton of trouble, right? Like that's a really bad situation. So instead, we're going to push this. And then when you breach ulters, you know, we're going to have space to then retreat back into when that actually happens. And let's see how it plays out.
時間を稼がれてしまうとこのクレムのラークが刺さりやすくなるがさあシミルとリジがスポーン側広げてミッドではクレムのキルここでローリングサンダー切っていくさらにアコもタワー側取れてシーカー切っていますどうだここの取り返しロミアがキルを釣る3対2です
But with that said, they can also have some bizarre, crazy rounds in there thrown in as well. Like, take a look at this one, right? Where look at this defensive setup. They're on the defensive side. They've got all 5 players here. Now, I'd also say that this doesn't really make sense as a defensive setup, not because they got all 5 players there, but because they have the Cypher Trips in here as well, right? Like, when are you hoping that they'll these Cypher trips will go off, right? Obviously, these should be over towards A instead. So, you know, there are some things that I would say, you know, they definitely need to improve upon. But you might think, oh yeah, but what's it matter, right? This is an eco round. No, this isn't an eco round. This is a full buy round. That they are stacking, you know, a full 5 players towards B. That is pretty crazy.
うわ、これ、ミッドと B マイプッシュか。
さあフォールトラインを入れてのプッシュアップをうまくいなしていく。さらにここのダークカバーに対してはショーストッパーを返していく。ただユーシーとクレムがキルを重ねて人数状況イーブン。さあ B メインのぶつかり合いどうでしょうか。ここには
And then finally we come to Team SMG. And you might think, hey, APAC team, this is going to be the Game Changers version of Paper X, right? Well, actually, no. They've played quite a few of their rounds, you know, fairly slow, fairly standard pace.
Ready on the finish, some really quick rotations as well, and of course Aluka with those nasty sheriff shots really doing the damage there. That said though, now full buy for both of these teams. SMG, they have the Seekers available. They did have to invest that orbital strike in that previous round here, so ultimate wise they still have 1 or 2 to work with, but they have to deal with the showstopper from Aluka as well as this operator from a Yumi. So definitely RQ, they have the tools in their kit to deal with SMG as well. SMG themselves, after making a little bit of noise towards B, look to focus towards A instead, but that guiding light coming out from Bess has already detected some showers presence. Finally, it seems like the execute is gonna come in. SMG going in full swing, chasing behind the Seekers here, and they're not even fighting for control really. They just go onto side and try to find expect scenario already with that first opener. Second from Shirazi as well. That's gonna make it a 3v5. Iger though, through the molly, swings out and takes out.
But that's not to say that they don't have some level of APAC crazy in them. They are sometimes pretty aggressive, like this round.
Is actually winning this pistol round to make it a little bit more easier to get to that 8-6 scoreline, if I must say. The initial flash to take info towards B long, very typical. They know it's a hopped out position coming in from these 2 players towards SMG side. They reposition themselves. They would rather go and wait on the site itself. And Nerito was able to catch Iceberg. And Kohaibi, something's happening around the map. It seems like RRQ 1 by 1, they all falter here.
But as well with SMG, I think there are gaps at times, odd decisions perhaps being made as well. Like take a look at this one where it's now an anti-bonus for us, right? Our opponents have worse guns here than SMG do. And you're going to see that what happens in this round, our Cypher over here towards A is going to put down this camera. As we can see, there's a 3-stack there. This camera's going to get destroyed early on, right? So you would think like, oh, okay. You know, camera got destroyed early on out here. I'm not quite sure if that camera actually saw multiple people or not. But, you know, as we run that forward, our Cypher's decision is actually to go and, you know, aggress here and try and get aggressive. But against a bonus, you know, we're giving them a rifle. We're on our own here. They've shot the camera, which maybe is a bit of a clue. They then got the auto, which is a bit of a clue that there's multiple people there. You know, do we want to be swinging into that? And then, you know, they would go on to lose this round as well. So there are sometimes, I think, you know, little gaps in decision making, or, you know, maybe the protocols aren't necessarily always there or always followed as well. But the thing is, it's very, very difficult to judge this team and know how good they are because they absolutely dominate their region. Take a look at this. This is all of their games. I mean, if you just, you know, look at their first couple games, they didn't even lose on map in, you know, the kind of like last handful of games. And then if you keep scrolling down, you will keep finding wins. It's all just wins. The last loss that they had was in 2022. And so that is my Game Changers preview. And this tournament is one of a kind because you really don't know how good these teams are in comparison to each other whatsoever. It's very difficult to predict because we just don't see these teams play against each other than this one tournament.